Hello everyone, it's 13th of December and we are here for today's edition of News Today. We're going to talk about the key developments of the day and how they are important for you from the point of view of the exam. First, let's look at the main news which we have today. So we have 5 topics which we will be discussing. First is the Cabinet approves Census of India 2027. Then, India's resolution on strengthening the global management of wildfires, adopted at UNEA 7 in Nairobi. Then, Standing Committee presents a report on Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation, which is the AMRUT program in Lok Sabha. And after that, we have sustainable harnessing of advancement of nuclear energy for transforming India, or the SHANTI Bill. And the last is Parliamentary panel report on air pollution in Delhi. After this, we will also be talking about some quick updates, some terms you should know. So first is the Pax Silica initiative. Then you have National Makhana Board. After that, IFAD. Then uneven digital progress across states. Then Maven spacecraft. This is in news. After that, you have the Kol Setu policy. Then the Pier Vihar temple and the PMGKY package, which is an insurance scheme for health workers. So we're going to talk about all of these one by one. Let's start with the first news. So the first is Cabinet approves Census of India 2027. See, census was originally supposed to happen in 2021, but because of COVID, the whole thing got a little delayed. And now finally the cabinet has given the approval that the census is going to be conducted. I'm sure you've heard about the census. Census is basically the counting of the people, and it's not just numerical counting, but also recording the data associated with people, like what is their health status, what are the social indicators, what is literacy, what kind of assets they have, what kind of houses they have. All of that information is going to be collected. And let's look at the background of this. So the first time this happened, that time it was not fixed that it would happen every 10 years. Now it's like a routine thing that every 10 years we're going to have it. So it was the first non-synchronous census, which was started during the British Empire. So that is 1872. And this one, when this is going to be conducted, the census 2027, this is going to be the 16th census. 16th since 1872. And if we count after independence, so it's going to be the 8th one which is going to be conducted. The Office of the Registrar General and Census Commissioner of India under the Ministry of Home Affairs. This is the coordinating office for conduction of the census. And you also have an act which is going to be governing this. So this is the Census Act of 1948, which controls all the provisions of this census. Now, there are certain key aspects which are new for this census, which are happening for the first time. So we need to look at those new things, and overall also let's just look at how this whole process will happen. What are the key details here? So this is the census will be recorded in a phased manner. So there are 2 phases, 2 aspects basically of this. So the first phase is house listing and housing census, which is supposed to happen from April to September 2026. So this means just the description or just the recording of the assets. That okay, houses are there, what kind of house is there, kacha house, pakka house, what kind of things do they own, is it electrified, is there a vehicle in the house, all those things are going to be recorded. And the second phase is population enumeration, actual counting of people and all the statistics related to people. That's phase 2, which is going to be in February of 2027. Now, this is going to be the first digital census. Digitally, there is going to be a provision. There are mobile applications which are going to be created through which data can be recorded. And this digital integration is happening for the first time. As a part of this, there is a special provision that public will be provided with an option to self-enumerate. These applications will have the option that people can, fill in a questionnaire and record their details. Whatever details they want to, they have, they can on their own, instead of a person coming to their house and asking all those questions, they can fill out their questionnaire and then that can be submitted. So this really is a very bold step, and this helps people explain or express the right information, because it creates a sense of privacy for this whole data collection process. So this is a very significant move. Then you're also going to collect caste data. So the socio-economic conditions of the country, of different people in different areas, the caste system in that is a very significant understanding, which we must record. So that's going to be recorded. And then there is also a provision for monitoring, that continuously while the program is going on, you have to monitor it. So for that, you have census management and monitoring system. There's a portal which has been designed for that. That portal is already being tested so that they'll be able to continuously have access to and continuously keep monitoring whatever is happening. Census is a very powerful tool. All the government schemes and programs which are going to be targeting different areas of concern in the country, they use this data to formulate those policies. So this is a very significant and a very major exercise which is going to happen soon. After this, we can go to our next issue of the day. This is Standing Committee presents a report on Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation in the Lok Sabha. See, whatever programs the government runs, there is a need to assess those programs, and you have different ways in which that can be done. And here in the Lok Sabha, there is a standing committee which is supposed to look into the work which has happened under this Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation, or what we call as the AMRUT scheme. So let's learn about AMRUT. So this is under the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. This is a centrally sponsored scheme. Okay, that means the central funding is going to be given for executing these programs. And what is the objective here? Development of basic infrastructure in the sector of water supply, sewerage, seepage in general, septage system, then storm, waste, drainage, green spaces, parks, non-motorized urban transport, and this will happen over cities and towns. Now, this is dedicated to urban infrastructure or the need of our cities. This is a process, this is a scheme to revamp the whole thing. Now, it is what it has done, or what the committee basically has recorded, that we are going to discuss. There's a very elaborate table here which lists the problems and what the committee has said. These are specific recommendations of the committee, but if you just look at this and read through this, you will find this very helpful in a lot of different areas. Like if you have a question, any question on urban infrastructure, you can actually take inputs from this. And in a way of the presentation style also, this is also something which you can use exactly in your mains answer, a pattern like this. So it's talking about a topic, a theme, an issue, and then describing the issue, and then the recommendations or solutions. I'll take you through this briefly, what all it is mentioning. Problems, I'm sure you understand. Everybody has that basic sense that, okay, what are the challenges of the urban infrastructure? So first is, of course, funding. Money is always an issue. If you want to develop infrastructure, you need funding. So here the recommendations which they have given is that you should use innovative financing, and one of the most successful models here is the public-private partnership, which can be used, which can be incorporated for growing your urban infrastructure. Then you have issues of implementation and institutional frameworks. Now, there is a problem with implementation. Overall, the pace is very slow, right? And for this to increase, what can be done is you can enforce bigger roles for urban local bodies, right? You can talk about long-term planning. Projects should have a viewpoint that, okay, what will be the requirement of a city, because cities are growing in the next 25 years, in the next 30 years, like that, right? And different other schemes which are in place, there should be convergence amongst those schemes so that a proper coordinated pattern can be maintained. Then you have technical, operational, and monitoring issues. Okay, so there are some technical issues, there are issues of monitoring. So all of that has to be addressed. So there is insufficient reporting system. So here you can have different kinds of options which can be used, like operationalize the incentive mechanism. Giving incentives for different programs, then wastewater management is one specific technical issue which has been highlighted here. Untreated sewage, it's a very big issue in urban areas. So for that also, you can have a national urban wastewater reuse policy. Okay. So this is a very good description of what the scheme is trying to do and the specific recommendations of the committee. After this, we go to the next topic, which is on wildfires. Okay. India's resolution on strengthening the global management of wildfires, adopted at UNEA, the 7th meeting, which has happened in Nairobi. So we'll talk about what this organization is, what has happened recently, what India has brought in the resolution, and the overall concept of wildfires in India. Okay, wildfires basically are forest fires. If there is a fire which starts in a forest, it becomes very difficult to manage that, and it can spread through widespread areas, causing a lot of damage. And in lieu of current situation of climate change and climate uncertainties which are coming in, issues of global warming and desertification, this is increasing. There are estimates which talk about how this is going to increase further in the next 20, 30 years. So the issue is being discussed in United Nations Environment Assembly. This has its headquarters in Nairobi, Kenya. That's where the whole discussion is happening. This was established in 2012 at the United Nations Conference for Sustainable Development. Now, what is the purpose of this? This is the highest level decision-making body on issues related to environment. Different kinds of environmental issues, what are the issues, what should be discussed, how solutions should be brought in. That is the whole role of this particular organization. See, in such kind of discussions, the organization which is centering the whole thing, that becomes very important. Now, India has raised a resolution in this. India is a party to this. And India has talked about how there is a need to strengthen global cooperation around this. Because if it's a forest, it will not be limited to a border. Forest fire or wildfire will extend beyond boundaries, right, wherever you have connected landscape. So you need to have a global cooperation. So the key provisions under this resolution are strengthening international cooperation. You should have global collaborations because the kind of issues which are being faced, they are similar. Like there's a wildfire in Japan or in California, it's the same thing. So basic aspects everybody can learn from each other. Okay, so you should have knowledge sharing and capacity building, training of personnel, risk assessment, developing some new technologies, innovative sensors to have early identification. All those things can be shared. Then support for national and regional action plans. There is also a need to have collaborated actions, national plans, regional plans, and in all of that, there is a need to facilitate access to finance. Money becomes a very important decision making tool. So there should be, if we are talking about technically advanced, innovative, collaborative, global best practices, we need to also have a system to provide finance for that, so that countries can finance their wildfire management programs. And this is the resolution which India has put forward. Now, if I tell you about the status of these fires in India, so the recent report talks about how, so this is the Forest Survey of India report. So this says 36% of the country's forests are prone to frequent forest fires, right? So that's more than 1/3. It's actually more than 36% also. So it's huge. And in that, there are 4% which are extremely prone and 6% which are highly prone to these fires. So in this sense, this is a very significant issue for India, and as such globally also a similar challenge is being experienced. So that's why global management is what is being suggested here. Moving on, sustainable harnessing of advancement of nuclear energy for transforming India. So a very creative acronym has been brought in, which is SHANTI. So the cabinet has approved this SHANTI Bill, and this is about harnessing nuclear energy. So this is about promoting nuclear energy, and there are some significant changes, very revolutionary, you can say, changes which are planned to come up through this bill. Let's look at that. What is this bill telling us? So first is that, see, till now, nuclear power production in India, we currently have we have 24 nuclear power plants running, and all of them are under the Department of Atomic Energy. So it's a government-owned enterprise till now. But the bill is talking about opening the nuclear sector to private companies across all stages, right from the basic supply chain to actually setting up reactors and operationally functioning them. At all stages, the government plans to allow the participation of private players through this bill. The second aspect is that there's going to be a unified legal framework. Currently, there are many laws. Okay, you have a number of existing laws. So this bill also talks about bringing a single comprehensive law for bringing more clarity. So if you want private engagement, you need to have something which is comprehensive, which is not ambiguous, which gives them clarity and thus confidence to participate and invest in this sector. And growth of this sector as such is very important for India, for its energy security. So that's why this bill is being proposed. Let's see what is its significance. The biggest significance of private participation is the funds. Whenever something which is highly technically advanced, and nuclear technology is advanced, and that also means it's very expensive. So if you have private players, you'll have access to more funds to grow it faster. Like India wants to do 100 gigawatts of nuclear power. So for reaching those targets, it's important that you have all kinds of funding coming together, private players included. Then technological innovations. When you have more players, see, the government is one entity, there is a limitation of how much they can work. If you allow it to everybody, there is a possibility of more minds and more ideas and more innovation. Like we have something which is called a small modular reactor. This is an idea where instead of setting up those big nuclear reactors, you can set up small nuclear reactors. And this is where you want private participation to show up, to have innovative solutions of something which can be set up quickly in less amount of time, easy to build, safer models, right? So that's the other aspect which you are seeking from private players. And then, of course, energy security. We want to use these new and renewable energy resources, because otherwise we are struggling with energy security. We have a lot of dependency of other countries. We get a lot of our oil, and our whole energy system runs through imports. So we want to do more indigenously in India, and that will create, that's the goal, is long-term energy security. So for that also, private participation will help. But because this is a very complex issue as such, because nuclear technology is a very sensitive issue also, there are a lot of challenges in doing that. And we'll look at those challenges when this bill actually goes into the parliament and discussions are happening. This is not something which will be very easily approved, because there are safety and liability issues. Nuclear accidents have taken place in different parts of the world, like you have Fukushima in Japan, because of which a lot of nuclear reactors had to be closed. So giving this to private players will be creating a situation where that security, that safety element might be compromised. So you have to be very certain, and that kind of reliability and assurance is something which is difficult to get. There is also an issue of liability. Like, if something goes wrong, who is held accountable? India currently has a nuclear liability bill, which which imposes a lot of very heavy compensation. Now, for private players, that kind of becomes a deterrent. That if it's so much liability in case of an accident or something going wrong, then they might not want to invest in a sector, because then the risk quotient becomes very high. After that, you also have a question of national security. See, security here in the sense that nuclear energy will use nuclear fuel, and this same nuclear fuel can also be used to make nuclear weapons. Now, as long as the government is having the sole control, it can control this strategic asset. But when it goes into the hands of private people, private entities, its misuse is also something which might happen, which overall can threaten the security of the country. Then there are long project timelines. When a private sector is going to come into working in this particular field, they would obviously do it for the economic benefit of it. And the problem with nuclear technology is that there is a long window from setting up the nuclear power plant to the nuclear power plant actually selling energy and making money. 7, 8, 10 years, sometimes even more, if there are some lags or bottlenecks in the way. So that is something which is difficult to sell, as an investment opportunity, because long-term patience or long-term investment might not be encouraging to a lot of people to participate. So even if the government allows, will there be private players available to do this? That is another point of concern. So we will get to see more on this bill when it gets tabled. So keep tracking that. Let's talk about the next main news here. So, Parliamentary panel report on air pollution in Delhi. So, see, air pollution is a big issue everywhere in Delhi. The AQI numbers have been very bad in the last couple of days, in the last month or so. So because of that, there was a Parliamentary Standing Committee on Science, Technology, Environment, Forests and Climate Change, which has specifically worked on this issue of air pollution in Delhi NCR region. And they presented their report. Let's look at that. Here we have another wonderful table with a lot of details explaining every aspect to you. Let's look at this. So this you can actually keep with yourself also, or maybe make short notes of this, because this is something which is going to be very usable. This is like ready-made content on the topic of air pollution. So first issue is air quality standard and monitoring, right? So how do you monitor? What is the standard which you follow? That is the first point. And the report says that the WHO guidelines are there, but they're not enforceable. They are, as an advice, they are not enforceable. And the Indian standard of NUX, which was there, it was revised in 2009. So that's also in a way outdated. So whenever they compile a report, they also give recommendations. So recommendations are that set standards which are suitable, dedicated to Indian conditions. Okay. Then you have vehicular traffic, which is one very big aspect of this air pollution. And the bigger issue, which is also been in news, also being discussed, is the older and polluting vehicles. Now, this has to be, they are still operating. Earlier, the government had said, the Delhi government said that, okay, we're going to ban these vehicles, they'll not be operational. But now, then that ban was lifted up. So, this phasing out of end of life vehicles, this is an important aspect. You have to throw those vehicles into scrap because they are of their polluting element. And overall, you need to review the standards. That, okay, what should be the standards? What should be the definition? Then you have stubble burning. This is another cause, that farm waste which is burned, that is especially happening in this season, and that worsens your winter pollution. In this now, you have to talk, the recommendation is that you must have plans for residue management, and there should be strict enforcement of those plans. There are plans, there are suggestions, but the only challenge which comes in is enforcement. Enforcement is not that good. Then industrial pollution. Industrial pollution, it becomes difficult to monitor things, especially when they're in the an organized sector, right? When they are not on record, it's difficult to apply the rules to them. In this, the recommendation is shift industry to cleaner fuels, less polluting, curb illegal fuels, close non-compliant units, and one of those all cleaner fuels can be natural gas. So if that's brought under GST, it will be easier for people to adopt it because the cost factor becomes feasible then. Last is afforestation. One of the most significant ways in which carbon pollution or pollution as such can be controlled is by having more trees. So afforestation is something which is needed. Currently, only 13% of Delhi is forested. So this has to be increased. And there's this one specific question, Miyawaki method. This is a Japanese technique of having small forests in urban areas. And this was a specific question which UPSC asked also. Okay, so this is one thing. And along with that, infrastructure should have forested or plantations as a part of it. This is another recommendation of the report. With this, we can now move on to our quick updates, some things which are in news, which bring out some key terms or organizations for us. First is Pax Silica initiative. This is a US-led initiative. It has been in news because India is not a part of this. So India has kind of lost this opportunity. Now what this is a US-led strategic initiative to build secure, prosperous, innovation, silicon supply chain from critical minerals and energy inputs. So basically, this is a way of global collaboration to get some key strategic minerals. These are the minerals which are going to be used in technology-related endeavors. And currently, the challenge is that there are a few countries which are controlling a lot of these. Like China is one country which controls a lot of this silica-related products, semiconductors, rare earth elements, all of this. So they brought in this initiative so that other countries can also collaborate and create an alternative system so that that extreme dependency on China, for that matter, can be reduced. And you have a number of countries which are a part of this: Japan, Korea, Singapore, Netherlands, UK, Israel, UAE, Australia. But India is not there. So a lot of people are talking about this idea that India would have really benefited from this. But India is not a party of this. Then you have the National Makhana Board. I'm sure you know about makhana, and it is a very popular superfood now, and the government is taking steps to have schemes to encourage this production and processing of this. So the schemes are under the National Ministry, sorry, this National Makhana Board has been set up, and this is under the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare. The purpose is to establish and boost value addition, branding, and global positioning of makhana. Okay, the location of this board is in Bihar, and the government has pumped up 476 crore rupees into this central sector scheme. It's a completely center funded scheme for makhanas. Then you have IFAD. This is in news. So basically IFAD, first you need to know this. This is International Fund for Agriculture Development, and this is an international financial institution of United Nations, specialized agency dedicated to eradicating rural poverty and hunger. Okay, so financial organization for rural poverty and hunger, and this is a United Nations organization. So there was an India Day in that, and there India has specified or stressed on the ideas of rural transformation and development. The event is not significant. The point which you need to know about is that there is an organization like this, International Fund for Agriculture Development. That's the part you take away from here. Then you have uneven digital progress across states. So you have Indian Council for Research on International Economic Relations. So this has brought in a report. So the report highlights disparities in digitization across Indian states. So basically, we have this program called Digital India, right? You've heard about that, which talks about digitization of different aspects of the country's different departments, and the report has now assessed that how much digitization has been brought up in which area, in which state. So Delhi is doing really well, but a state like Jharkhand is way backward, is way behind, I would say, in this digitization. So this gap will actually slow down the whole scheme, because the schemes, the digitization or the goal of Digital India only works well it is there all across the country, when you have that streamlined digitization happening. And the report is highlighting that that's not the case. The gap is huge. There is uneven distribution. Some states are doing well, and some states are not paying adequate attention to this. Going further, you have the Maven spacecraft. So this was a spacecraft for looking at Mars, particularly the upper atmosphere. So this is Mars atmosphere and volatile evolution spacecraft. So this was launched, and it was launched in 2013 by NASA. And NASA has been receiving data from this since that time, since 2013, but finally it has lost contact. So in a way, this is the end of this mission. The Coal Setu policy. See, India has a huge amount of coal reserves, and coal is a very strategically significant reserve for many different kinds of industries. So the government has brought this policy. This is a policy for auction of coal linkage for seamless, efficient, and transparent utilization. Now, in this policy, they are going to open an auction portal, and anybody who wants coal can go and participate in this particular auction of coal. The only thing is that you can't sell it. Traders are not allowed, but otherwise, people who want coal, who have industries working on coal, for all of them, this portal is available, which is kind of streamlining and making this whole coal thing, because you know, coal and allocation of coal, there are a lot of scams also which have happened. So this is a move to make it transparent, accessible, and help in better utilization of coal reserve. Then you have this very important temple. This is the Priha Vihar temple, which is in Cambodia. And currently, there is a conflict going on between Cambodia and Thailand. So this is on around the border of Thailand. So India has raised this concern that you have to be cautious, or this temple should not be damaged in that conflict. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and historically also this is a very important Hindu temple. This is dedicated to Lord Shiva. So that is the reason it is in news. The last news we have the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan package. Garib Kalyan Yojana is there, and under that there was a package in which the Supreme Court has extended the 50 lakh insurance. So people were supposed to get 50 lakh rupees assurance, and now that's going to be available to all doctors who've died on COVID duty. The healthcare workers who had died, for them this scheme was created, and now it's just been emphasized by the Supreme Court that okay, you have to pay it to the doctors. With this, we complete our discussion for today. I hope I have been able to simplify the complex topics for you. Please go and read the news today after this. I'm sure you'll be able to follow. Once you've read that, go and solve the questions. There are some MCQs, some factual things which are there, which you'll connect better once you solve those questions. And for any of these topics, if you want to read more or go into the background, you have this digital current affairs website of Vision IAS. Please visit it, look at the topics, read about them, and you will be on track for your current affairs preparation. That's all for today. Thank you.